Sometimes the best way to win a game is simply don't take the steps that lead to losing. You see, I was talking with a bunch of business owners recently, and we were talking about the concept of business as if it was a game. Think about that phrase for a moment, the game of business. Well, if business was a game, it must have rules. Just like any other game, right? And if you can learn the rules of the game, you could start playing to win. And over nearly 30 years, I've been building and scaling my own companies, helping business owners just like you do the exact same thing. And I've uncovered that there are actually 9 things that so many business owners are engaging in that actually do lead to losing at the game of business. And I want to break them down for you here because sometimes, again, knowing what not to do is more important than knowing the steps actually to take, because when you learn not what to do, the only option is to do the right thing. You see, would it surprise you to learn that there are nearly 33 million small businesses in the United States? But the sad truth is that nearly 2/3 of all businesses that get started won't survive past 10 years. And one of the number one reasons of those 33 million small businesses, the vast majority of them operate with no legal protections whatsoever. They have no formal structure around their businesses. They're general partnerships or sole proprietorships. And the problem with that is they are exposing all of their personal assets to potential loss in a litigation event. Even if they do go and form an LLC, as an example, a limited liability company around their business, they believe that they have protection. But the sad truth is simply forming an LLC, that's not what gives you the statutory protections. It's what you do with the business, how you operate the business, that affords you those statutory protections. Now, another thing that business owners don't do is that they engage in no risk mitigation, not for their business assets, not for their personal assets. Think about that. They are taking on the burden, the financial burden of potentially satisfying risk events personally, right? And they avoid the most common methodology, the easiest way to shift that burden to a third party, by leveraging an entire industry that's been built up around this very concept, the industry of insurance. See, as a business owner, you have the capability of securing insurance policies that can protect you from any potential risk events, whether those are hazards, losses in other ways, litigation opportunities that come up, right? As a business owner that owns real estate, you could engage in premises liability or general liability coverage. If you're a business owner that makes decisions day in and day out with regard to your business, with what business owner doesn't do that, right? You could set up an opportunity to have officers and directors liability coverage to protect the ramifications, if you will, that may come from decisions you make in business. Another thing that business owners are doing is that they do not have any form of segregation of risk that happens within the business context itself, meaning all of their business activity, all of the ways that they go about generating income, they're all housed in one structure if they have a structure at all. And the problem with that is that if you're putting all your business eggs in one basket, if that basket falls off the counter, you end up with a bunch of broken eggs, meaning a risk event in one aspect of your business could potentially infect the others. A way to get around that would be to segregate those business lines. For instance, let's say you had a bake shop as an example, and you sold baked goods in your storefront and baked goods online. Those are very different types of risk. The person coming into your bakery, that exposes you to a different level of risk than someone buying your baked goods online. Simply segregating those into separate businesses could be a way to reduce your exposure, at least the exposure of your entire enterprise, to one particular risk event. When it comes down to it, another thing that business owners are very challenged by is this concept of taxation. Now, pretty much any time a business owner hears the word tax, they have this visceral reaction to it. And if a business owner does engage in tax planning, which by far most don't, but if they do, a surefire way that they are actually losing or putting themselves on a path to losing is they make sure that the tax planning activity that they are engaging in is a year-end only activity, meaning they're not planning throughout the year. They're not doing the things and getting exposed to the information about their business that can help them change or modify what's going forward so that next year their tax burden is lowered. They wait until the end of the year when they have no time to make a change in their business in order to try to figure out how to shortchange, if you will, legally, dear old Uncle Sam. Another thing that business owners are doing that leads to the eventual loss is that they are relying heavily on generic versus tailored advice. Meaning they're maybe going to social media, like a site just like this, and they're just taking what they're hearing for granted instead of saying and absorbing what's being said and shared and then going back to their trusted advisors, which I encourage you to do. Go back to the people you trust in your financial life and say, hey, listen, I heard X, Y, and Z. How does that apply to my circumstance? Not can I do this and can I do that, but how could I do this? How can I get XYZ type of deduction? And the benefit of using a how phrase or a how opener, if you will, to those types of questions with financial professionals is you are enlisting that financial professional to be now on the same side of the table with you to strategize, to collaborate toward a productive outcome. When it comes to this concept of finances, a surefire way to lose in the game of business is to co-mingle your personal and your business finances. I can't tell you the number of times that over the course of the past 30 years, I've seen business owners do this. They use their business credit card for personal expenses and vice versa. And the challenge with doing that, because you may think, Edward, this is such a minor thing. Well, in litigation, an opposing counsel, a plaintiff's attorney, is going to dive deep into your finances because they're looking for opportunities to essentially tell the court that your business, the protections you believe you have, they're not there because you simply didn't operate your business like a real business. You didn't even treat your business with enough courtesy and enough deliberate action to safeguard the actual statutory protections that could otherwise be available to you to protect your personal life and your financial life as a whole. When it comes down to it, another way that business owners are putting themselves on the path of ultimate loss is simply to put off wealth transfer and estate planning for someday. The problem with that, and let me know, put this in the comments below. Has someday ever come, right? We're constantly battling 19 million other priorities in our life. And if we put things off until someday, the problem is someday never arrives. And therefore, the planning for wealth transfer, for estate planning, putting all of the puzzle pieces together so that you ensure it goes to those you love, it just never happens. Another way that business owners are putting themselves on a path to loss is that they just simply fail to diversify their wealth beyond business, beyond the business that they're operating. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying in any way that you should try to get 18 million multiple streams of income at the very beginning. You've probably heard the phrase, the average millionaire has 7 to 11 streams of income. That's a very misleading fact. And while it may be true for individuals who've already reached financial independence, they typically did not get to that level with all 11 streams, right? They typically got there by focusing heavily on one, building that up to true financial independence, and then diversifying there. But the problem is, so many business owners fail to diversify once they've gotten to a state of wealth. They simply continue to double down, triple down, quadruple down on the one thing that has been generating the income. And the best thing that you could do is once you've gotten to that state of independence is now start to diversify, start to put yourself on a very even path to be able to withstand the ultimate tests of time that do come up over and over again during our lifetime. And here's the number one thing that will guarantee that you lose at the game of business. You underestimate the impact of taxation on legacy. Simple as that. You see, tax is an erosion to your wealth. And if you're really trying to measure whether or not you win or you lose at the game of business, I say it has nothing to do with the actual generation of revenue. What it has to do is generational wealth. Right? And that's not the generation of revenue, but the creation of generational wealth. That is the measure of whether or not you win at the game of business. And if you are underestimating how taxation is going to impact your legacy, you're setting yourself up for failure. I know that these 9 things may seem simple, and you may be saying, well, Edward, these are all common sense things. Yes, but common sense is not always common practice. And if you're looking to change your financial life for the better, what you want to do is first identify the things that lead to the challenges that potentially could arise in your financial life. That's one of the reasons why I spend so much time with business owners just like you trying to elevate financial literacy. Because when you're aware of the problems, you can then consciously avoid them. You can see the pothole and choose not to step in it. And when it comes to success, winning at the game of business, Identifying the potholes and the roadblocks gives you an opportunity to navigate around them. And when it comes to how to win at the game of business, you can distill these 9 things down to just 3 things that truly will change your life. And if you'd be interested in learning what those are, I host events, actual financial literacy events that are aimed at helping business owners just like you identify the 3 things that you can be doing that will ensure you win at the game of business. If you're interested in learning what those are, check the link in the description. I can't wait to see you at the next event. Until then, bye for now.